Contact The Peter Levy Show. Call Grimsby 340-959. Hull 225-959.
A man from Hull has put a unique advert on the internet that's selling his identity. Preston Likely is his name, and he's trying to raise money to pay for his dad's hip operation. He's offering to sell his identity records, his passport, his credit number, his share dealings and birth certificate, and he's hoping to raise around £10,000. All this despite being told he could face prosecution if he goes ahead with it. Preston is joining us on the line now. Good afternoon to you.
Hello there.
How are you?
Absolutely fabulous.
Good. Is this your real name?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just checking identity there. Why are you doing this?
As you just said, to pay for my father's hip operation. He's done a lot of heavy manual work in his life, and which has affected his right hip, and it's getting worse, and it's going to take about 6 months on the NHS to have this operation. So I decided to try and speed this up and do it privately. So hence the reason why I'm putting my identity up for sale.
Everybody would sympathise with the situation. Everybody want you to get the hip operation done for your dad, but why on earth are you selling your identity, and who on earth would think of doing that in their right mind?
Well, we do a lot of strange things, don't we? It's all about risk-taking.
Well, this is quite a risk, isn't it?
Well, it is, but my dad's in a lot of pain, and I don't like seeing people in pain.
No, I understand that. Let's take that as read, that we wish you Dad well and we want the operation, etc., etc. But why on earth would you flog your identity? I don't get it. And how do you raise money through that?
Well, it's incredible because the number of people have emailed me offering to buy it has astonished me. And
offering you money?
Offering me money. So
offering
far,
you how much?
£12,000 so far, an Italian fella.
Offering you £12,000?
It's quite adamant, because I emailed him back. I said, is this for real? And he keeps emailing saying, yes, I want it. So I would have to meet him and decide, if I have the right to sell it to him, or if I feel comfortable selling it to him, what are his reasons for wanting it. So, yeah, I would have to meet this person and be happy that I am doing it for the right purposes.
And you would be breaking the law?
Well, it's a moral question, isn't it, and a philosophical one, which I think is much more important. Who are we? Who gave me this identity? My father was a Bulgarian immigrant. His real name is Lylov, but he changed it to Likely because a friend of his, an English friend, told him that Likely was a popular English name back in the 50s. So my father took that as read and ergo changed his name to Likely.
But you face prosecution if you do this. Why?
Well, I've spoken to my lawyer, and she said my identity belongs to the head of state, the Queen, and she isn't elected the head of state. She's there because she's the Queen, and so it raises questions of identity, her identity.
Why would somebody in Italy want to buy your identity for £12,000?
Because they've seen this. It was in an Italian paper, and they saw it.
But why would they want to get it?
Well, I emailed him and I asked him why, and yet he hasn't replied saying why. So I'm curious as to why he wants to buy it.
But why would anybody want to?
Well, obviously lots of reasons. Maybe they were like me. They had a surname, a Bulgarian surname that they weren't happy with. Maybe he wants to change that. There are lots of things he might not be happy with himself. Maybe he's just miserable being him, and he wants to change his identity to somebody else.
So what happens to you if you actually go ahead and do this?
What happens? In what sense?
Well, you have to have a different name and a different. What about your birth certificate? I don't really understand.
This is simple. As I just said earlier, my father was called Lylov. That's his Bulgarian surname. I want to revert back to that. I think that's more me. I would feel more comfortable being Lylov than Likely. I think Likely is a ridiculous name. I don't like it, and I'd like to change it. That makes sense.
So if somebody's happy to buy a ridiculous name for £12,000, you're happy to sell it?
Absolutely. I said to me it's a moral question. Have we the right to do this? I feel uncomfortable being Likely. I would rather be somebody else. And
what if the question that's coming next, the person that wants to buy it is probably going to be a rogue, a drug dealer, or somebody who's in trouble.
That's such a generalisation. They might not be. They might be somebody like me.
No, but they might be. They might be.
Oh, that's might is might, isn't it? Pots and pans, blah blah blah. he might be a genuine person.
Well, I've got to put the opposite point of view, because some people would say it was ridiculous and irresponsible, and it is.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. If it makes somebody happy and it's going to be a legal transaction, I've spoken to my lawyer. The only person who could stop this transaction is the Queen. Is she going to get involved? I don't know. And who's the Queen anyway? What's, her identity? All
right. Okay. We're not talking about the Queen. You could face prosecution.
Could. Another word that's like a random word that doesn't mean a lot. Could. I either do or I don't. I'd like to see, this issue raised with a higher authority, like the Prime Minister.
Where were you born?
I was born in Hull.
Right.
As I said, my father was an immigrant, came over to Hull in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I was born in Hull. I left in 93.
Right.
And I must say, Hull is a unique town. There's nowhere like it in the whole of Humberside. It's an amazing place. But yeah, I'm sailing the Preston Likely vessel into uncharted waters, and there may be sharks there, there may be dolphins.
I would think there would be a lot of sharks there, to be absolutely honest, and many people listening will not understand this one little bit, to be absolutely honest. Well,
there'll always be people who don't understand anything. Some people won't understand what the share price is, for instance. I can't pander to those people. There will be some people who understand what I'm doing and maybe empathise. That's my feeling anyway. So yes, it's a risk, but I'm a risk taker. And so if somebody comes along this afternoon, satisfies your questions that they're not a drug dealer or sex offender or whatever, you're happy to hand over your identity records, your passport, your birth certificate, etc., in return for cash, are you? Yeah, I'm happy to hand over my Preston Likely identity for cash. Yeah, I'm not hiding anything. I'll be upfront about it. I will sell my Preston Likely identity, full stop. And if they're happy to accept it, and they're not using it for sort of scurrilous reasons, then I think it could be an easy transaction, and I could be comfortable with that. I could sleep at night with that. If it makes somebody happy.
You where do you live now?
Oxfordshire.
Okay.
But yeah, it raises more questions than you first imagine. The moral and philosophical questions, I think. Who are we? What gives us our identity? What makes us? Is it a gesture? Is it a statement? Is it a thought?
Yeah, but and I'm not being rude to you in one little bit. But when most of us are fighting to guard our security, our identity these days, when there's all the warnings that we have, and trying to keep our identity safe, here's somebody who's doing completely opposite. Many people would say it was potty.
Potty. Well, many people can, but there'll be some people who won't say that, and I'm happy with those. Some people, a minority. As I said, I can't pander to those who don't understand me. That's their problem, not mine.
Okay. Well, listen, it's interesting to talk to you. It's interesting what your lawyer says as well. On a more serious note, we wish your dad well.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. He's in a lot of pain, as I said, and he doesn't know anything about this, by the way, my father. This is going to be a surprise when I raise the money.
Where does he live now?
He lives in Hull, still.
Well, well, hang on. You're talking on the radio in Hull now.
Yeah, he doesn't listen to the radio. He's semi-deaf.
Okay.
So he can't get about as well. He can't get to the radio to turn it up. He often slips and falls and makes a fool of himself.
Okay.
So, he probably isn't listening to it. He hasn't got the internet.
Well, maybe it would be a good idea then if any people who know your dad don't go round straight away and tell him.
Well, they may do, but I think he'll be happy with it. If he gets the money, my dad's quite mercenary. I think if he's not in any pain any longer through something I've done, I'm sure he'll be happy with that.
Incredible story. Very good to have you on the programme.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Preston, thank you very much indeed. I wish you well. A bizarre story of all time. Preston was born in Hull. He's selling his identity. His dad is somewhere in Hull. He needs a hip operation. Somebody from Italy is offering him £12,000 to buy his identity this afternoon. From the You Couldn't Make It Up department, really. We might go back to that one as well.